Quarantine hasn't been all that fun for anyone in my little neighborhood. Being stuck inside for weeks on end, only leaving to grab the essentials when they're available. Days passing quickly, slowly, almost never ending. I couldn't think of anything worse. Except for maybe my situation, in a few ways. I was born with a rare autoimmune disease called a gamma globulinemia. I have practically no antibodies, which means I can and do often get sick, and quite easily. I've been in quarantine for my entire life. The only time I've been allowed outside is to go to the doctor, and I have to wear a hazmat suit while traveling. It's not the worst, admittedly. I do not know a lot of other people living worse lives. My house has a state-of-the-art filtration system, and I don't normally get sick when I've been inside for a while. I have gaming systems, musical instruments, TVs, everything a person like me could want, while being trapped inside forever. Like I said, I can't really complain. The houses in my neighborhood are pretty close to each other, with about 25 feet between each. We don't get much of a yard, but the houses and landscaping always look nice. We have some large windows that let the sunshine in, and it's amazing to watch storms when they roll through. I get to see the neighbors walking their dogs or getting the mail. It's mostly adults around here, not many kids, but they're always very nice and know about my situation. They'd smile warmly when walking by, sometimes giving me a wave or a thumbs up. That was before we got the announcement. Quarantine started here a little different than everywhere else in the world. I've heard about COVID-19 on the news, and it sounds terrible. I'd be wearing my mask and social distancing if I weren't already in my own bubble. We aren't seeing that issue here, though, in my neighborhood. We're being quarantined for something much, much worse than a virus. It started back in January, about the same time news was starting to come up about the coronavirus. My parents were out the night it started. I hope they're okay, that they got out and are waiting for me. They were out on a date, which they don't normally do. They don't like to take chances on bringing anything home with them, even if they do decontaminate before getting back. Anyways, my parents were out, and I was at home relaxing. I think I was organizing my books again, when I heard some strange noise coming from downstairs. I stopped what I was doing and listened. It was almost like a pattern of small knocks coming from a window. I walked downstairs to find out what it was. I rounded the corner of the living room to find a person outside the front window. There stood a lady in a business suit outside my front window, knocking slightly on it like you would a door. I hesitantly walked over to it and tried to talk to her. Ma'am? Can I help you? She didn't answer me. Hello? What are you doing? This time, I think she heard me. Her eyes snapped to me. I could tell her face was expressionless and void of any color. She was pale as a ghost, and not a single muscle moved in her face. She looked back at the window and started knocking again. I was confused and really freaked out. Okay, sorry, I'm going to call the cops if you don't leave, lady. I can't let you in here. At that moment, I heard a shriek that almost made me piss myself. Across the street, another person was at the door of my neighbor's. I think it was a man in just his swimsuit. Which was insane because it gets down to around 40 degrees here at night. The lady at my window turned slowly, like she didn't know how to move. The man across the street pointed at my front door and shrieked again. This lady's head snapped to the right, staring at my door. Her body then snapped too, meeting her head's direction. I could hear the snapping, and the vibration of it almost made me sick. She continued over to the door, stared straight at it, and started her light knocking again. Knock, 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 knock. I ran over to make sure the door was locked, and it thankfully was. I headed into the kitchen to find my phone charging and dialed 911. I was greeted with a dead dial tone. I tried again and got the same. I looked at my phone and saw that I had 0 bars. Shit. We don't have a home phone to use. I checked out the window again, and she was still there. Just knocking. I was going to go back and try my phone again when something caught my eye. My neighbor across the street turned on his light. I watched as my neighbor turned on his outside lights and checked out his front window. He's a large guy, muscles and all that. Built kind of like a wrestler or something. He looked pretty pissed off that someone was knocking on his door at night. I saw him in his front window, and that's the last time I really saw him. He went to open his front door, and I'm scarred from what I saw. The man on his front porch opened up vertically. It was something like out of your worst nightmares. I don't know if it had teeth, or if it was just bones protruding out everywhere. But this creature opened up vertically, just down the middle, and eviscerated my neighbor. I've never seen so much blood and guts. It practically painted his whole porch. I couldn't look away, but I had to. The last thing I saw was this man's wife walking over through the front window. She was a nice lady, and I couldn't watch that. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. retching for a few minutes after. I came out of the bathroom with my head in a spin. What the hell did I just... There's no way this is real. What just happened? It just doesn't happen in real life. I stumbled over to the couch and passed out. I woke up a few hours later, with the sun just starting to rise. I couldn't hear the knocking anymore. I finally felt at ease as a wave of relief washed over me. I rushed up to grab my phone, but I still had no signal. My heart sank. I crept over to the front window and almost threw up again, and I saw a pile of viscera and blood on my neighbor's front porch, along with a few other neighbors' houses I could see. I broke down. What in the fuck was going on? What are these things? Where did they go? I couldn't see any of them now. The lady outside my door was gone, along with the man across the street. The only difference I saw now was a large crate just a few houses down in the middle of the street. It had blue tape over it with AID written on it. I mulled it over and knew I had to try to do something. I went upstairs to my room and turned on the TV. Nothing was on. I tried every channel, and then even tried an antenna, but still, nothing but static. I still had internet access, but there was almost a block on it. Anything I searched about this just came up access denied, 404 page. Actually, pretty much everything came up as access denied, except for search engines, until I tried to search anything. The only reason I'm able to send this is, well, I went outside. Against everything in me telling me not to. I suited up in my hazmat, grabbed my phone, and took my first steps outside in months. My front door had a small dent in it from the lady knocking all night. She must have been at it even after I passed out on the couch. Everything in the area was deadly silent. I couldn't hear birds, cars, people. There was nothing. The only movement I could see was some of the AID tape was torn and blowing in the breeze. I checked all around my house, but nothing was changed. I couldn't stop glancing over at where my neighbor used to be. The door was still open. I knew it was probably a bad idea, but I went inside. As I walked in, I tracked bloody boot tracks throughout the house. I walked around looking for anyone, any signs of life, but didn't find any, until I made it to the kitchen. I figured I would look everywhere, just in case. So I opened the pantry. There stood the blood-covered man in swim shorts. I recoiled and screamed, now noticing the bloody footprints leading to the door. He just stood there, not moving an inch. I gathered myself and walked over to it. He was staring at the wall, not moving a muscle. Not a twitch, and not a breath. It was a stupid move, but I touched it. It was cold as ice and hard as rock. I don't understand how or why, but I couldn't make it move. I started beating the hell out of it with everything I had, but nothing happened. Not a scratch. I stood there in disbelief. At that moment, I heard the thundering noise of a helicopter in the distance. I ran out of the kitchen and out to the street. It came up over the horizon, carrying another large crate wrapped in blue tape. It started hovering in the street, just a few hundred yards from me, then unloaded the crate in the middle of the street. It started flying away, so I began to run in that direction. I ran for about 5 minutes to the end of my street, and was met with a roadblock. I came upon an easily 20-foot high, black steel wall that stretched around my neighborhood as far as I could see. To my left, there was a tall ladder up against the wall, and beneath it, 2 of my neighbors. These 2 weren't torn to shreds, but both had large bullet wounds, and not much of a head remaining. I just turned around and started walking back home. So, here I am now. Those crates have plenty of supplies. I have enough toilet paper to last me a lifetime, and enough Chef Boyardee than I ever wanted to eat. Sometimes they come with fresh fruit and soda and candy. It's not the worst food situation. I haven't seen a single normal person for months. Not any of my neighbors, not any policemen, or National Guard, or anyone. The only thing I have seen are those things. They come every single night. They come only at night, which I haven't been able to figure out why. I have found more of them hiding out in other houses during the day, and they've never tried breaking into my house. It's always a different one, every night, lightly knocking on my door. I've got DVDs and things to drown out the noise, so it's not that big of an issue. I found one spot in my backyard where I can get some service, but most things are still blocked. I was able to get here though. Reddit. It's probably just the government or whoever's fucking with me. Doesn't bother me much. I'm used to being alone a lot. If anyone out there reads this, I could be dead. I might not be. I think I'm going to try and kill one of these things sometime. Or test some things out. I wonder if they'll enter through windows